of a great long series of races at the Royal Vic, and it's a learning experience for both of us, both the kiteboarders and the club. So we're very, very fortunate to have an awesome team, Olympic level team behind us here. We have real quality race officers, excellent equipment, we have real coach boats, real markers, and hopefully we can pull off a good race and then next year lead into a great series of races. So I'd like to introduce Mr. John Abel, President of the BC Sailing Association. John is the race officer for our racing, and he knows a lot more than I do, so write it down. All right.
Well, thanks, Luke. And he says we got quality race management, so I'll run with that. That's good. I just thought maybe before we got started, how many competitors, are you all competitors? Do we have any in the committee? Raise your hand if you're racing. So we got 21 registrations right now, and we probably got most of them here, right?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. So
that's a good thing. What we don't know yet is what our split between twin tips and pro division is. I don't know if you want to try and figure that out. How many have got race boards, racing pro division? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we thought we'd probably have more in the twin tip division. Just tell you a little bit about me. I'm a senior national race officer in Canada, and I do race events all over North America. I really enjoy doing this. It's if I can't get myself to the start line of a high-level event, I can go as the race officer and be right there. So it's a good thing to get involved in. But to be honest with you, I've never done a kite race before, so this is a new experience for me, and I'm excited to do it. So I've done quite a bit of research and read up on what we need. And the guys in Squamish have been very helpful. Don Campbell and those guys over there have been very helpful. So we are doing this really as a test event. But from our end on the race management, we try to do this as professionally as possible, as tight as possible, because the better we do a job, the more fun you can have. And so I've gone through and I've written up a set of sailing instructions for this. And normally at a high-level event, you'd get a set of sailing instructions and you'd get a race officer who would come out and would say nothing about it, because generally you're supposed to know what's there. They're provided for you, and you're supposed to know, and there's rules that you follow, and there's a notice of race as well that gives you a little bit of information. But I'm going to do that differently, because I don't know how many of you actually have course racing experience. How many don't really have much course racing experience? So quite a few of you. So we're going to do this kind of as course racing 101. So we're going to go through the sailing instructions, and we're going to explain certain parts of them as we go. The notice of race is the first document that I'm sure you've all read. And what the notice of race essentially does is it gives you the information you need to decide if you want to compete or not. It tells you where it is, when it is, who can enter, what's the eligibility, what's the schedule, all that kind of stuff, right? So we don't need to go through too much of that. But the sailing instructions, or the SI as we refer to them, this is the document that governs how we actually run the racing. So let me just bring that up. Bear with me.
John, at some point I'd like to just go through and hand out the race numbers as well. I'm not sure when it's a good time.
Sure.
While John's pulling this up, do you mind if I run through and figure out who's pro and who's not?
You go ahead and do that.
All right. I'm gonna call your name. Hopefully you're here if you sent in your race registration form, and if you could just indicate if you're pro or twin tip, and then I'm gonna give you a number. The way these numbers work, we were hoping to have jerseys from WinFest. It didn't quite work out, so we're going to give you a number, and John would prefer if it was somewhere on your front. Right?
Yeah, this is how we're going to identify you, of course.
Oh, come on.
This is how we're going to identify you when you come across the finish line. And these are already small numbers. Understand that you could be a little ways away from us. We know that on the twin tip course, you're going to be facing chest to the finishing crew. So that's a definite. On the pro course, it could be either or, but we don't have so many on the pro course, so that won't be too bad, hopefully.
Exactly. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to call a name of a form that I've got, give you a number, and it's really your responsibility to wear the number and fix it on yourself somehow. Richard from Ocean Ray suggested if you have dry suits, fill it full of pins and stick it on there. Dry suits like holes. Where is Richard?
He's gone already.
Oh my gosh. Right. Well, good. There you go. Warranty Ocean Radio covers that sort of thing. so you're good. But no, figure it out somehow. I'll start off with Harold Grindle. No, not here. Okay. So I'll put that number down for now.
What about surfboards? Is that,
Yeah, good question actually. Surfboards mean you're in the pro class. That may not be the right decision, but it's what we're going with. Just because of the surface area of the boards and the fin area beneath it. So the rule is raceboard or surfboard, you're in the pro class.
If there's no surfboards, why don't we just send the pros or the race boards and the surfboards out at the same time and split it into?
Todd's volunteering to run the race. So Todd, would you come up here? we only have a limited amount of manpower, and we're doing the best we can. We can't have that many starts.
Okay, I was saying same start. But
Yeah. Okay, so Harold Grindle's not there. Alicia? Alicia, are you pro or twin tip? Twin tip? Okay, and Alicia, you are?
The finishes, seeing as we've given you the numbers, make sure, don't lose them between now and the race, make sure that you've got them on as securely as you can get them on there. So I expect that, we may have difficulty seeing some of the numbers. It's quite possible some of these numbers might come off. So one of the suggestions, yeah?
Oh, I was just thinking maybe like a t-shirt writing the number on big.
oh yeah, old t-shirt cut.
You can do that too if you like.
That's
And if you
okay.
do that, write it front and back then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you got an old t-shirt you don't mind drawing all over it, that'd be great.
Okay.
The other thing I was going to suggest is that when you finish, if you know who it is in front of you or behind you, just make a mental note of that. We're going to be also clicking pictures as well when you cross the line. So we've got as many processes in place to try and make sure we get all the finishes. Nothing worse than coming in and seeing your name down at the bottom when you finish like third. It's just not a good thing. And with all my experience with race management, I can say you guys are going to be coming through considerably faster than anything I've dealt with before. Right? I'm prepared for that, but it will be challenging for us. Anyway, let's move on into the sailing instructions. So again, as I mentioned, this is the document that rules the event. And I know guys like Mike and Kirk, they've seen these before. But so some of the stuff we'll just go by very quickly. So in the top there, it just simply tells us about the rules that we're using behind it to govern the event. And of course, the sailing instruction is one of the rules. Notices, competitors, and changes to the sailing instructions. There is a notice board that we've designated down on our dinghy shed down here. We won't post anything there after it was 6 p.m. on tomorrow night because you're not going to be there on Thursday. So I don't expect to actually post anything there. But strictly speaking, we have to have a notice board and we have to post things. There are a couple of changes that we will make tonight due to the numbering and the checking out of the beach. So we'll just announce those tonight. Signals made ashore. So there is a signal that the beach captain may put up, which is the AP flag, and I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes. That means we've postponed the racing for some reason. Right now the forecast is looking pretty good. It's looking like 15, 20 knots perhaps on Wednesday night, which would be lovely. And if that's the case, we won't have to postpone unless we have a technical difficulty on the course. But the intent will be just to get going. But if that signal goes up on shore, what will happen is there'll be a horn, or two horns. That flag will go up, that means hang on. And then what we've stated here is that when that flag comes down with one horn, it means that we won't start a race in anything less than 10 minutes after that. The racing rules say you start 1 minute after, so we had to change that here so that you know it's 10 minutes. But strictly speaking, we'll be watching you off the signals boat. We're not going to start if we still see people coming off the beach.
And we have walkie-talkies, so we'll be talking to the committee boat. And if the flags are confusing to you, we'll talk English too. And we'll launch your kites.
Once we're on the water, it's really hard to hear anything, like
course,
little horns or...
Let's just see the flags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're on the water, just as a little bit more in course racing 101, the sound is not the official signal, it's the flag. Okay? So the schedule of races, you probably know this already, so the plan is to start the first race at 5:30 on well, let me just move down here a little bit, so jump over the 2 pages. Yeah. Okay, so first thing there is this competitors meeting. August 9 is the race day. 10th is just a provisional day if we don't get wind, but it's looking good, cross your fingers. Scheduled time of the warning is 5:25, so the warning is 5 minutes before your actual start. So it's still 5:30 is when the race is actually going to start. We'll talk a lot more about the start sequence in just a minute. And then prize giving is going to happen over here as soon as it's feasibly possible after the last race. I'll probably be the last one here because I got to drive the boat back. Okay, so the class flags. So each class will have a flag that will go up at its 5-minute signal. So for the pro division, it's numeral pennant 1. Looks like that. Okay, so white with the red dot. For the twin tip division, it's going to be numeral pennant 2, pretty close. Blue with a white dot. Okay, so starch that into your memory. So these are good sized flags. You'll see them up. We have a high hoist system on the signal boat, so you'll be able to see it go up. And it goes up with one sound signal. But this is what you'll be looking for. We will start the pro division first, and then the twin tip division right after. We'll talk a little bit about it. Sorry?
5 minutes?
It's 5 minutes. And we'll talk more about the start sequence procedure as we get there. Okay? So the racing area, of course, your launch point will be where you typically launch. I think it's just east of Finlayson Point, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll be set up somewhere down in near Clover Point. So my guess is committee boat will probably sit somewhere down and around there. We've got a few nuggets in here, so we can't get in too close. The club doesn't really like it if we take legs off their boat and stuff like that. So we want to be as close to the beach as we can, so that you can see the signals from the beach, and you can hear the signals from the signal boat when you're on the beach. So that's probably where we'll be. So that's the general racing area, and we'll talk more about the courses in a minute. Well, actually, we'll talk about them now. Oh, okay, so this is, actually, I'm going to come to the courses at the end. So there's appendices at the end of the sailing instructions. So we'll talk also about the marks. So this is typically how these are written up in sailing instructions. But the one thing you're going to remember here, essentially for the pro division, all the marks are, other than the start mark, are a big yellow tomato. It sits about yay high, and it's about yay wide. They're quite visible. And the start mark will be a narrow yellow cylinder, about yay big around. For the twin tip course, the first mark will be a yellow cone, so that's a little bit smaller mark and it's a bit tapered. And of course those two weather marks, as you'll see in a minute, are going to be a long way apart, so there's not going to be confusion. You're going to be going essentially different directions. The finish, the rounding mark, the second mark and the finish mark will be a red cone of the same type. Okay, and again we'll talk about that when we bring up the course diagrams. So the start, so I'm just going to bring up another diagram here. So the way we run the starts, as we said, is on a 5-minute sequence. Okay, and what will happen is the first thing you'll see is the code flag will go up. So at 5 minutes for the pro division, this flag will go up. Okay. Now I don't know. You guys probably don't read watches while you're going, so you're going to be guessing. When we race keel boats, we're all busy staring at watches and keeping track of it. But you're just going to have to make a mental note and watch for the other signals. So that goes up with one horn, and then at 4 minutes, so 1 minute into that count, P flag goes up. That's the blue with the white square. Okay, so when you see that go up, you know that there's less than 4 minutes to your start. Then nothing happens again until 1 minute before the start, and that P flag comes down. Each time there's a sound signal. So the key thing is when you see that flag come down, you know you've got 1 minute to go till your start. And then what happens at your start is, along with the sound signal, this class flag comes down. Okay? So just to go over that, at 5, 4, 1, go are the timing of the signals. 5 minutes, class flag goes up. 4 minutes, P flag goes up. 1 minute, P flag comes down. Go, class flag comes down. Any questions on that?
So could I add, when class 1 drops, class 2 starts,
Hold it.
generally?
Don't rush me on that. What we'll actually do is class 1 flag will drop. 1 minute later, class 2 flag is going to go up. Okay? I like to leave a minute in between those. Yeah, I like to leave a minute in between those because that gives me a little time just to take stock of the conditions again, gives a little more separation on the starts. We want you guys to be not getting too close to each other. Okay? But you'll know that because you'll see the flag go up, and exactly the same process for the second division, just with a different class flag. Okay?
So a minute apart starts gonna be?
Well, no,
Two classes?
it'll be, the pro class goes, when they go 1 minute later, the 5-minute sequence begins
I see.
for class 2.
Right.
So throughout the whole process, you'll have 5 minutes for flag for class 1, then 4-minute P flag, 1 minute P down, go class flag down, 1 minute later, class 2 flag goes up, and the sequence starts all over again through 5 minutes. Now, if something doesn't go right, or we're not happy with the something or other, then we will raise the AP flag, and that's the red and white stripe, and it's a pennant, just shaped the same as these class flags. When that happens, we try to avoid that happening, but when that happens, it means we're postponed. Nothing else is going to happen until that P flag comes back down again. Okay? So we will do everything possible to avoid doing that on the water. We're not going to bring you off the beach unless we know that we've got good enough conditions to go race, because I know that it's not quite so easy just to kind of laze about out there with a kite. You're moving all the time, so we're very well aware of that. Racing keelboats and dinghies, you can kind of sit there and watch the scenery go by. Yep.
What if you have a false start? What if someone takes off first and you have to like retrace? Is there something?
Good question. So let's go through that. So when that class flag comes down and the go gun sounds, you need to be not over the start line. Okay? So it's a little different than keelboat racing. There are only two things that are going to happen if you go over. We do, in kiteboard racing, everything's done on what we call the black flag start. The black flag means that if you go over the line in the last minute, so not just if you go over at the start, if you went over the line 30 seconds before and then came back, it's the same thing. You're automatically disqualified. Okay, we don't do individual recalls. If any of you have ever done any boat racing, we will do individual recalls because boats can turn around and come back. But we don't want kites doing this. Right? So the only other option is that we do a general recall. And the general recall is signaled with the first substitute. On the lower row though, the blue and yellow triangular pennant. Okay, so that'll go up with, so you'll hear a start gun go, and the class flag will come down, and a short time later, usually within seconds, you'll hear 2 beeps and you'll see this flag up. That means that start has been thrown out. And then what will happen is, when we get everybody reorganized, that flag will come down, and 1 minute after that, we'll start that sequence again. Okay? By the individuals, because the rule of thumb there is that you maybe get 3 or 4 guys that have gone over. If you do a general recall like this, you're not right either. But sometimes you just can't see them all, and you don't have an alternative.
No.
Okay? Is everybody fairly clear on that?
John, just to clarify, the black flag will go up when certain people are disqualified, is that correct?
No, I said it's a black flag start. We're not actually going to fly a black flag. Okay, we'll still fly the P flag.
So
Okay.
if people are over, they have no, if it's individual, they have no way of knowing.
They won't know, and we can, usually we'll post the numbers on the back of the committee boat, but we're probably not going to see your numbers very well in the start, right? So we'll have to do our best to identify. We're not running a world championship here. We're going to give you a little bit of space, you know, if you're just a touch over the line. Actually, if everybody was over the line by like a half a board length, that's still a fair start. Should have said that.
Yeah, there we go.
Still a fair start. See, in race management, you don't want to go through an endless succession of restarting. That adds time. Nobody likes it much, especially with boards, right? But we'll be watching it closely, and so what we want you to just to be careful. One other rule that I found out about kiteboarding is that you're not allowed to slow down or stop in the last minute before the start. You can't do that because you guys know how fast you go. You run into somebody at that speed, it's not going to be pretty. Okay, so you can't do that. So if you have a problem or anything, you got to bail right out. You can only stop or slow down if you can actually stay clear of all the approaching boards. So I recommend that once you get into your final sequence for the start, just keep her going, do the best you can.
What if
Yeah.
there's a tangle at the start line?
See, certain amount of this,
You know, you put 2 kites down and go right across in front of everyone.
You jump over the line.
You know, the bottom line is I have my job to do, you have your job to do. So if you get all tangled up, do what you can. Right? All I'm doing is watching to see if guys are over early, to see if we think we have a fair start. If somebody's got messed up, it's your job to get untangled and going again, not mine. Okay? But, I mean, stuff's gonna happen. You might fall on the start or whatever, and then you just really be careful.
I just think it's going to take a little bit of a race.
Yeah, yeah,
John, if somebody does,
sorry? Yeah,
if somebody does stop or slow down within the 1 minute, how do they rectify that situation? If I'm in front of 3 of these guys and I stop, they will all stop too, well below their start. Is that do they do a protest or
they
how
can
does
do
that-
a protest. Yeah, we'll talk about the penalty system in a minute, but that's your recourse, is to file a protest. But, you know, give each other a little bit of space. There are a lot of novices, I think, in this, so we want to try to run this safely and fairly, and above all, have some fun. You were going to ask?
I was going to say, well, actually, I think you sort of answered it. So you're not going to require us to yell starboard and then protest to make sure that.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's in here.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
That being said, we have a big start line.
Yeah, I'll make it generous. I'll give you lots of room. General rule of, what was it I found? It was about 20 feet per board or something like that. Anyway, I'll make it generous. I'm not going to squeeze you down. Again, like I say, I recognize the level that we're working with here, and we want to have a fun event, so we make it work. Okay, let's go back to our lovely saying. Okay. All right, so we talked about the start. Any more questions on the start at this point? Okay.
And just to clarify for the people that were getting grabbing a drink, the last 1 minute before you start, you cannot slow down or stop.
Yeah.
Well, you're still staging, right? So it's like, so if you're too close to the line, you gotta turn around and go, you know, and you're always, how can you say slow down?
You can't really.
You gotta slow down the turn, you gotta, you know.
Well, in the start, of course, you're going to probably want to try to avoid turning.
That's right.
Right? Typically, you're all going to
Cover
come
a lot of
in.
ground in 1 minute is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
But what I understand, and again, okay, what I understand, and again, I'm fairly new at this, but what I understand in the videos that I've seen, generally people approach on starboard.
Absolutely.
And so everybody's coming in, and it's just this nice little choreographed.
Exactly, yeah. It just builds up speed. Just
Yeah.
builds up speed. Everyone's got their.
Yeah.
We actually said that people will not be looking at their watches. We always look at our watches.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as that flight.
That's the pro
we've
class.
got 4 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something that.
I'll look at the sun myself.
And again, this is something that for those of you that are new, that's something you're going to want to get going with eventually as you work your way up in this, if you're keen to do more of this competition. So it all makes, I mean, if you know exactly how many seconds you have and you can judge your distance and speed to the line and you can hit the line, obviously the ideal start is to hit the line when the gun goes at full tilt.
Absolutely. Well, and everyone just turns a little bit downwind.
Yeah.
And that's where I want a nice long start line, because we're all just building up against it, and that's, we hear that more than everyone's heading up.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, I met Phil the other day, and he races in Maui. He races, I believe, quite a bit.
Nope.
No?
I'm spending
Okay.
more.
Just don't turn around.
That's
Six-
right.
1 minute, don't turn around.
Just don't turn, like,
Okay.
that last minute. Just
So
don't
the finishes, so on the finish for the pro division, the start line and the finish line is the same. And I'll show you on the courses how that'll work. The pro division will be doing a course that goes basically straight upwind, straight downwind. Okay, the twin tippers are going to be doing a reach, so it's a little bit more straightforward for you. The starts are all going to be right off the signals boat. The finishes will be in 2 separate locations. When I said the finish for the pro division is the same line, the finish for the twin tip division is actually going to be off Clover Point, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a minute. Okay, so the penalty system that we talked about, we said you can file a protest. That takes time, and not everybody cares to really do that, and if you're a novice, you probably don't want to do that at all. So there's ways you can absolve yourself on the course. You can do a 360-degree turn penalty, which I gather on board you can do pretty quick. Right? Yeah, so that's the best. If you think you've fouled someone, be straight up about it, pull off a 360, and then you just keep on going. There is, you'll see other provisions in here. Just to be sure. Sorry, guys, Guys,
Just to be sure, we're not talking about doing a back roll here either. We're talking about the kite's got to change direction. You know, the board just doesn't. You have to turn it back and turn it back up again. Because you can just do a back roll and keep on going,
yeah,
which would turn the board, but there would be no deficit in time.
So the kite has to change direction, and
That's
then you've
right.
got to change the kite
That's
direction
right.
back
That's right. You
again.
have to turn
And the
back,
board has to
turn
turn
back.
with it. Okay.
and one basic thing to remember, when you're doing a penalty turn, you have no rights on any of the other boards coming at you. So you got to make sure, you should do it as soon as possible, and you should do it when you've got clear space to do it, okay? You can decide, if you didn't do a penalty turn on the course, you can decide later that you should have taken a penalty, in which case 12.2 will come in, and then we'll give you a scoring penalty. But you probably want to avoid that, right? I'd say, I'm suggesting that the best approach is know when you foul, and if somebody else is very adamant that you have, I mean, if he was wrong, then you can get a beer out later in the bar, but do a turn. Simplest thing. After all, we want to keep racing and keep having fun. Okay, we have time limits for the race. The courses will be up and back twice, or on the reach out and back twice. And the time limit for the first finisher is 20 minutes. And this is a new part for me. We do a lot of times calculating target times and speed on the course, but as I've never done a kiteboard event, I have to go on what I got from other people. So I'm hoping that you all do it comfortably in 20 minutes. And then there's a 15 minutes for, after the first competitor finishes, everybody else has to finish. The whole idea behind that is that we want to keep this thing moving along. We're going to try to run 3 races, and we have between 5:30 and I think it was 7:30 to get them done. So we want to keep it moving along. Any questions about that? Okay, here's protests and requests for redress. The beach captain will have protest forms if it comes to that. But again, like I say, you can get it sorted out on the course. We just did a regatta up in Couch and Bay on the weekend, and they try to discourage protests by saying that you have to bring in a bottle of rum when you file a protest. We're not going to do that here, but it takes time and resources to get them all done. Okay, and the scoring is quite simple. The first finisher gets 0.7 of a point. Everybody else in order gets 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you get a little bonus if you happen to be the first guy to come across the line, and that's the standard scoring under the IKC championship rules. Okay, and there's no throw-out races, so it's just the total of your 3 scores. Okay, safety we're very keen on, and this is one of the things where we've got to change something a little bit here now, because we've said you got to check out and check in with the beach captain. That's still going to apply. The way we were going to do it was when you were going to get your number. So when you got your number, we knew you were checked out, and when you brought it back, we knew you were checked in. So I think what we're going to probably do is check people off on a sheet of paper as they go. Is that how you think you might do it?
Yeah, the purpose behind checking people and checking in and out was to really manage the jerseys, which we don't have. So we just like to make sure that you're on the course and you're racing, and that way we're clear that if anyone doesn't show up, we don't accidentally score their number.
And actually, sorry, go ahead.
Please come see me or Greg. Preferably myself. I have all the forms, and I'll be taking tally of where you are.
So as a race officer, my perspective on this is that we're not fishing you off the beach at Discovery Island a week later.
Right, there's that too.
Okay. Safety is very key. I don't know what our safety boat to competitor ratio is, but my guess is it'll be low.
It's very bad.
So I know you guys, when you're going out there just to play around, you don't have safety boats, so we're relying on you to just keep doing what you normally do. But the thing is that because the club is running the races, we have some liability involved, so we would really like to not have the club go bankrupt over this event.
And to that point, Strong Kiteboarding has donated use of their jet ski all the way from Nitnat Lake, which is not cheap. And so thank you to Strong Kiteboarding. Really lots of support there. We have 1 jet ski, 1 mark boat from Royal Vic, and the race committee boat will not move.
So when you come back in off the water, make sure the beach captain knows you've come in. He's going to check you off on his list so that we know we've got everybody back. If you withdraw from the racing during the races, It says here to notify the race committee, the easiest part of the race committee will be the beach captain. So when you get into the beach, just let him, it's written on. And, okay, so now what we're gonna get down to is the courses.
Could we maybe just talk for a second about redress?
Yeah,
It just seems really important here that, because we're just a small group and we're out having fun. If someone's in trouble, of course someone's gonna stop and help.
yeah,
And that person should, of course, get redressed.
Yeah.
Throw them back in somewhere somehow, so that people don't feel like helping.
I really should have no problem doing it. We're gonna have 3 boats, if I'm correct.
oh, you are? Okay.
And in the unfortunate case that one.
About as good as paper it's written on. And, okay, so now what we're gonna get down to is the courses.
Could we maybe just talk for a second about redress?
Yeah,
It just seems really important here that, because we're just a small group and we're out having fun. If someone's in trouble, of course someone's gonna stop and help.
yeah,
And that person should, of course, get redressed.
Yeah.
Throw them back in somewhere somehow, so that people don't feel like helping.
I really should have no problem doing it. We're gonna have 3 boats, if I'm correct.
oh, you are? Okay.
And if, in the unfortunate case that more than one kite goes down, I can drop the person off onto one of the nearest vessels in the area. And if you do put your kite down, may I suggest not rolling your kites up, just pop your eject, let your kite go down. That gives us a really visible mark to deal with, and it's easier for me to read.
So the kite sits up in the water kind of like this?
The kite will just, basically, if a line breaks, it will just come down in every situation. Never one situation is the same.
This isn't gonna be your first time out on Coach Street, so you know what to expect, you know what can go wrong.
And we have all these rules up. Rule 4 basically says it's your decision to race, but the reality is we don't want to be fishing bodies out of the beach down the way. So we're going to do everything possible we can to make sure you guys are safe. You'll do your job, and that hopefully the club has got behind the event, but they would be very concerned about liability, so it's all part of it.
We just choose our own kite sizes? Or?
I don't know
I'll choose your kite size for you. Yes. You're at 17.
I can't answer much technical about the actual kite racing because I'm not a kite racer. So.
In the Olympics, you're allowed 3 kites, any 3 kites, and then put the board standing. Here, you don't have that luxury of the board, so you know it's easier.
The 3 choices, you have to stick with those.
So just as an aside, and I think Luke and I will talk about this after you get all your emails, we're going to want to get feedback from you on this too. Let us know what you thought worked, what you thought didn't work, because we would like to do, I mean, this is a weeknight thing. We'd like to do a significant event, probably starting next year, like a weekend event or something more, and start to build this, because this is the new hot discipline, and we'd like to be there. So we'd like the feedback. Okay, let's talk about the courses. So, okay, so that's not a warning at all. So I'll just, you see up at the top there, the course says start 1, 2, gate, 1, finish. So now I'll just bring it up a little bit so you can actually see the whole thing. So there's start, finish.
That's right.
In this case, we're saying that as you come around that mark, the wind is coming down this way, you've got to come around it and make your turn to the left. If you go around the wrong way, you have to come back and then re-round it correctly. That's how it works. But just remember that. Don't mess that one up. Just remember it has to be on the other side. Okay? This mark is these three are all the big yellow tomatoes I talked to you about. This one down here is the narrow yellow cylinder. It's about yay big around. And it sits about yay high, so it's quite easy to see. And there's an orange flag on the signal boat, which is the official other end of the line. Okay? So that's the pro course. Now the twin tip course, a little bit different. Now it looks kind of similar, but you notice here the wind direction. Okay, so you're on a reach. You're going to be going slightly upwind to the first mark and a little bit more of a broad reach, a little more downwind coming back. Again, start, mark 1, mark 2, mark 1, finish. There's no gate on this one. Okay, so the difference here is that you see I've drawn Clover Point in there. And if I go down a little further, you can see the start line down here. Just make sure I get so you can see the whole thing.
There we go.
Okay, so the idea, the reason we did this, so same, the start line is the same, except this is not a yellow cylinder for you. This is a red herring ball. I'm going to show you the start line detail in a minute. On the starts, we're starting the pro class, and then 6 minutes later the twin tip class. We've got you separated. We couldn't finish you in the same place because we don't know if somebody's really fast in the twin tip division or something. We can't have both boards coming like this. Okay, so we moved the finish line out off Clover Point. So you'll be reaching out to mark 1, round it to the left, you come down, you round mark 2 to the left, back up to mark 1, round to the left, and down, and come between the mark and Clover Point. We've asked that you stay closer to here because there's nuggets off the end of this. You know, they're really slow when you hit them, and expensive. So we want you out here. We're going to have a finish team on Clover Point doing those finishes for you. Okay, and they're going to have binoculars and cameras and doing their best
paying attention.
to try and read your numbers as you come through. Once you finish your course, then we ask that you sort of come down. Well, I think you typically go to the beach in between races mostly, don't you?
Depends on the gap between.
Yeah, but if we've got boards that are stretched out 10 minutes behind for some reason.
Somebody will manage.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be so fast that I think people, like two hours on the water's not that big a deal. Okay. And if anyone's going to land, they got to get it back up again.
Look at this.
But it's possible.
Yeah. So the thing about it is when you're not racing, stay out of this area. Okay? And that's just, we just draw a big cloud around it. We can specifically stage this kind of 50 meters all around the start line. But our start area is a little bit interesting, and that's the next slide I'm going to show you. So on the twin tip, is everybody happy with this? They understand that? Yeah.
I understand the diagram, but just the, do you know about the spiral staircase to Clover Point bubble? That there's a spiral staircase at the bottom of Cook Street,
Yeah.
and from there to approximately Clover Point, there's often an air bubble that
Okay.
you
Yeah,
can't get up with.
So that, well, I'll show you that. Well, here. So Clover Point this way, the spiral staircase is over here, right?
No, it's
Oh. Oh, up here?
yeah, it's
To your left.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to be out.
This is the vote I'm talking about is right. Inside reach.
thanks, Phil.
Okay, so I won't be inside there. I'll be on a line that's at least equal with the end of the point because we want to be able to get you out clear of the point. But basically, with these two courses, then, is that the pro division is assuming we've got a wind coming more or less out of the west. Right? Pro division's going out this way. Twin tip division's going out this way.
How far is the mark upwind?
I'm going to go on 0.8 nautical miles to 1 nautical mile. My best figuring, that's what I got from John Campbell. That twice around on even a 1 mile course with a good breeze, you're still going to be like 12, 14 minutes pretty quick. Perfect. Right? Okay, so other than that, is everybody good with the twin tip course now? Remember that you'll be going out on more of a reach, but now we need to understand how the start area is. signal boat is for the start line for both divisions. But the other end of the line is the yellow cylinder for the pro class, and they're going straight upwind. This way. For the twin tip class, we'll have another orange ball down here, and you're going out this way to your arm. Okay? This line here will be as square to the wind as we can get. It may not be perfect. This line here will be square to the mark you're going to. Okay? So that basically everybody gets the same opportunity, no matter which one you're on. Also keep in mind, especially with the twin tips, when you come off your start, this is not your mark. Again, that doesn't apply to you. It doesn't matter where you go around that. And hopefully we don't have any of the pros back already, but we go around their first gate, which is going to be up out of the way here. Okay? So remember this. It may get a little confusing when you get on the water, so really start this in your mind and take a look at your sailing instructions again, because these are all right out of the sailing instructions. Just remember, if you're in the pro class, you're going straight upwind, and with the yellow cylinder signal boat, you're on the twin tip class, orange herring ball signal boat, going up this way. Okay?
And you can go on either side of that yellow one, right? If you got a twin tip.
Yeah, if you're twin tip, that has no bearing on you whatsoever. And again, too, for the pros, when they're starting, this doesn't mean anything, but the pros have to follow the start line. Okay? So you can't, the pros, you can't be across this line before the start. And the twin tips, you can't be across this line. You've got to be back in here until the gun goes, right? All right? All righty.
Maybe just one more point about the start and the finish is that when the pros are going through the quarter, the twin tips to stay out of the way. And then when the twin tips are coming in and the pros are finishing, it's important for the pros to stay out of the twin tips way.
Right.
Because we see that a lot. People are finishing, they're milling around when they get ready to start. And
Yeah.
they're just getting each other's way.
So basically, if you're not starting or finishing, you're totally clear of this whole area. Okay? I don't know where you're probably going to be up in here or something, whatever. But also remember on the finishes, right? The twin tip start line is here, but their finish line is more or less out here, right? So the finish line, the plan will be, and I should draw this in, we're going to have, the twin tip's going to have their weather mark out here, but their downwind mark is going to be around about there, right? So when you come down, that's your mark 2, you go around that and go back up, and then you come down and you finish right there. So we're going to have a team here on Clover Point that's going to be sighting. They'll have a little stick with an orange flag on it, which is the other end of the line on the point, and they'll sight through that stick out to this mark and record you as you go by.
Will there be a buoy as well, or just?
Yeah, no, just the red cone right here, and just the stick.
Does it matter which side of that mark you round on your
Yes.
second line? You have to
It's
round.
always to your left. It's always on your left side, even on the finish. The only mark that doesn't apply is the gate mark for the pro class.
See, that's interesting, because that means you have to drive upwind on your turn.
Correct. But
Might not work that
the
way.
idea is you're gonna come here and you're gonna turn sharp around that. Okay.
You have to transition and get upwind, so we might be having to transition, change direction well past that mark as well.
You got your job to do. That's right. These are gonna be this distance here. Just as a guess, is probably gonna be 1/10 or 2/10 of a mile.
And you're not going to be able to round the mark right away and just make it. You're going to have to, go past the mark a little bit, look over your shoulder. Okay, now I might be able to make it back. All right, so it's not a race turn.
After the race, do you want to sell?
I think you're allowed to hit the marks. Sorry. I think you're allowed to hit the marks in Kiteboard. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't go over
But don't go through it and rip it right off the bottom right away, okay? Because that means you gotta go back to work. Sorry, someone else.
After each race, do you guys want us to come back to the beach?
You can do what you like. My intent will be to try and start another race as soon as possible. Because of the separation, if the pro class are done and there are still twin tips coming down here to finish, we could do a pro start, right? But the deal will be that when you finish, you're coming from over in here, you need to go down low and then below here. Because the pro class are going to come in like this, right?
Yeah.
Right? So you just have to be aware. Again, the general rule is you stay right clear of this unless you're starting or finishing. Right? I want to keep the races going. I don't want you to stand up in your boards too long. We want to get 3 races in, so I'll try to keep them going
So 3 races,
Yeah.
and if the wind drops, you'll fly a flag that says we're going to wait a bit, or
If the wind drops,
Yeah.
we'll put up a postponement. So,
okay,
you know, if you finish your race and you don't see a postponement, doesn't mean we may not put one up.